Brad Dacus of the Dacus Report, heard weekly on Bible School Radio 91.3 KDKR Decatur, Dallas, Fort Worth, and on 91.3 KYJC Commerce.
Portions of KDKR programming do not necessarily reflect the views of this station, its management, or staff.
Prudent Money with Bob Brooks is sponsored by the Prudent Money Foundation on 91.3.
Well, did you know your tires have an age? Today we're going to take a look. Stay tuned for the special Car Corner edition of Prudent Money. Good afternoon, this is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. Thanks for joining me today. You know I do appreciate it. Tony Joe is here, as he is every Friday, to take your Car Corner questions and talk a little bit about saving money when it comes to caring for your automobile. Probably on the list of expenses in a lifetime, you're probably Tony Joe, top 5 for sure. Mm-hmm. Maybe top 3?
Perhaps.
You know, throw college in there, throw maybe college, definitely a house. That's why we do this, because there's so much bad information.
If the prices keep going, it's going to be number 1.
So very true, so very true. So you got a question for Tony Joe. Don't miss this opportunity to call in, 1-877-913-5357. So, Tony Joe, this seems like it was weeks ago, but it was just last Monday with the eclipse. So, I guess you just stepped out the shop. That's basically what I did.
Well, yeah, I heard about yours. You watched it from home with your family, and of course, you know, I called afterwards. I don't know if you know this. I called to see if you saw it and enjoyed it, and Sherry picked up, your wife, and she said, yeah, Bob and me and the boys watched it from the backyard with our 3D glasses. And I said, cool. She said, but there was one thing kind of interesting that she told me about, and I thought this was worth sharing with the audience because it's kind of profound knowledge. And that's when your 2 boys that were watching it with you, one of them asked you, Dad, can you explain to me about the eclipse? And you looked at him and said, do you remember what you said? Sherry told me.
I'm just waiting to hear what I said.
No, son.
Okay. You see, now you...
Dad, can you explain to me about the eclipse? No, son.
I know, and you have to say it twice.
Now, Bob, you shouldn't, I've been told you shouldn't hold back your feelings.
Right.
You're grinning, but go ahead, let it out. It's funny, okay?
Okay, so...
It's not good to hold in a sneeze or anything.
So there's a backstory to this, and Tony Joe comes in, he goes, hey, can we talk about the eclipse a little bit? And I said, what do you want to talk about? He said, oh, just, the experience and everything. I said, Tony Joe, no jokes. If you want to have conversation about the eclipse, I'll be glad to sit there and talk with you about what my experience was. But Grayson would have a really tough time watching it at the house when he goes to University of Arkansas. That's first thing. Well, and Sherry was at school, and it was just Blaine and I.
You didn't know that. I mean, it could have happened. You don't know that it didn't happen. You're just assuming.
Oh, okay. You know what this means? I can't trust you.
You set him up, and I'll knock him down. Okay.
Right, okay. 1-877-913-5357 is the number to call. And if you got a question for Tony Joe, we'd love to hear from you. We do have a line open, 1-877-913-5357. And the other thing that you said after you made yourself comfortable in the conference room is that, hey, are we talking about tires again? And we have a few tire questions to get through, then we'll be done with tires, Tony Joe.
Well, that's okay. Whatever you want to talk about.
It's like, are we there yet? We're getting close. Now, you told me something very interesting, and I would be surprised that I'm the only person who didn't know this, but that tires actually have an age, and it's an important number to know the age of the tire.
Correct.
Talk a little bit about that, because I have never heard that.
Well, Yes, tires have a manufacturing date on them, and there are rules and regulations set out by the Department of Transportation. And when you go to a tire place, it is possible that you may have what looks like a perfectly good tire with plenty of tread, and you think, well, they suggest that it's time to get a new tire, or let's say you need to get it fixed, and they can't fix it, even though it looks like a pretty good tire to you and it's got a nail in it. Why can't they fix it? Well, the age of the tire, it's too old, it's outdated, and I do not know, I must admit, I don't know the age, the age out requirement. I don't know how many years it is, but if it's older than a certain number of years, they can't repair it, or they won't repair it. They shouldn't repair it because the age of the tire is beyond its expiration date, so to speak. And and what's sad is sometimes you really do have what looks like a perfectly good tire, but it's aged out. So it doesn't do you any good, and you need to replace tires when you think you have perfectly good tires.
Now, you and I have talked about this before, that there are people who are in charge of regulating what you do as a shop owner.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure that they regulate the dealerships.
Mm-hmm.
So do they regulate that to the point to, because I've always wondered why, on these tire warranty programs. So you go out, you bust up, a tire blows up on you, you bring it to the dealership. They say, Mr. Jones, here's a brand new tire replacement. And you find out that it's not a current year model of a tire. It's a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think any of these dealerships or any of these shops try to get away with giving you tires that are out of date?
No, I wouldn't think so. That's a little bit risky to liability-wise to the dealership
right.
or the tire
makes
store.
Sense.
So I wouldn't think they would do that. I have no reason to. I've never
heard of
never
anything
witnessed
like
that or seen that or heard. But you can get tires at different places in town, of course, and you can get all kinds of varieties. You can get used tires.
Yeah.
I mean, no rules there. I don't think they could sell you anything, but I wouldn't think a dealership would do that. They pretty much have to obey the law.
If you had to guess at a time limit, a number of years, what would you guess at?
On a tire?
Yeah.
Well, it's an interesting question, and I will just tell you that it's impossible to answer, and here's why. If you just think about what wears out a tire, well, let's start with the date on the tire, just what you brought up. Let's start with the date. Why is the tire got a date on it? If it's good, right? No, because it's exposed to UV radiation from the sun, and except during an eclipse. That extends the life of your tires, but that's only 3 or 4 minutes. But anyway, UV radiation rays can really take out, because the tire is made of a rubber material made of petroleum. It's exposed to excessive UV rays, and it will kind of make the tire weak, so to speak. And that's why they date it out. That's why they have a manufacturer date on it. And that can ruin a tire or cause you to have new tires. What else can wear a tire out? Well, gosh, driving habits. I know that in most cases, Bob, when I walk by your car all the time and the back tires are worn right down, but the front tires are like brand new, it makes me wonder, what are you doing? Because spinning the wheels all the time would answer that question. So that's one other possibility. And then you move on to, a front end alignment that doesn't get done on time. It's going to prematurely wear the tread on the tire. It could be just one side. It could be both sides. How about overinflating a tire? If you overinflate a tire, you're going to wear out the very inside treads, the very two inside treads that are contacting the road all the time. Because you've got so much air in there, you've made like a little hill of the tire so that only the contact point and the outside edges are going to be up off the road, so to speak. And that's going to wear the center part of the tread out, yet the outside looks perfectly brand new. Okay? Now, if you underinflate it, just the opposite will happen. You'll wear the two outside edges first, but the inside will be like brand new tread. So there's a variety of reasons that question can't be answered because it's got to do with driving habits. It's got to do with UV radiation. If you live in
I guess it comes
Seattle,
down. I guess it comes time that after a period of years, you are a higher probability of having a problem with that tire.
Exactly.
Versus one that's a little bit newer.
Yes, like anything else.
Anything else.
The newer it is, the better it is, and then
I guess it's interesting to me because I never really thought of it in those terms. You never think of that they keep the date, that it stays strong, it's rubber, it makes sense, and. But you can definitely have problems. And one of the reasons why I like to talk about this is and bring everybody up to speed on what's going on with tires because they're just so dang expensive.
Well, keep in mind, Bob, everything in this economy is based on energy. And when oil goes up, gasoline goes up, when you see the price at the pump going up, you can bet the tires are going up, and anything that's got anything to do with petroleum products is going to go up.
I would be willing to bet if you looked at tire sales during a time like we're going through right now where the surveys show, not Washington, but the surveys show that people are having a tough time dealing with this stagnant inflation it's not going down, unfortunately, that they're putting these tire purchases off. I would be willing to bet.
Oh, of course they are. Anytime we go through financial struggles, you put off all the luxury items and all the things that don't impact you daily. And until you have a blowout, you really don't feel the effects of a worn tire.
It's something as easy as rotating your tires that makes total sense, and you want to do that.
Yes, rotation of the tires increases their life expectancy.
1-877-913-5357. I do have a line open if you want to talk to Tony Joe. If you got a question for me, go to the website at www.prudentmoney.com. I don't think they want you answering financial questions, and I don't think they want me answering your questions.
Why? I know quite a bit about it, Bob. I've listened to you for years. Don't bet on the horses. Don't take any wooden nickels.
Yeah, exactly.
Things like that.
1-877-913-5357. This is Bob Brooks. Stick around. We'll be right back. Hello, this is Bob Brooks. Proverbs 22:3 and Proverbs 27:12 are the exact same verse word for word. I call them the stewardship verses of risk. A prudent person foresees danger and takes precautions. The simpleton goes blindly on and suffers the consequences. On the Prudent Money Radio Show, we teach about risk, how to identify it, how to figure it out, and what to do about it. We believe that to be a prudent steward, you have to be a good risk manager. Listen to the Prudent Money Radio Show on Bible School Radio 91.3. Prudent Money, home of the modern-day steward movement.
Hi, I'm Jill Taylor, inviting you to join me each Saturday morning at 11 o'clock for Choose Life Radio. You'll hear people from across America sharing their stories of faith, forgiveness, redemption, and restoration. Choose Life Radio will encourage you to fully appreciate the gift of life. You may also find help for you or a friend in need. So please join me Saturday mornings at 11 o'clock right here on Bible School Radio 91.3.
Dynamic, practical, life-changing.
There's no point in going to church and not letting the Christ who gave birth to the church on the day of Pentecost change your life.
Join us each day as Pastor Paul Shepherd applies the timeless truth of Scripture to everyday life. It's Destined for Victory on this great station.
Weekday afternoons at 3:30 here on Bible School Radio, KDKR.
Welcome back. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to this special Car Corner edition of Prudent Money. 1-877-913-5357 if you have a question for Tony Joe. Tony Joe, you said you made a comment about my phone ringing, and you said a joke and I missed it. So the funniest thing about that phone call, and I'm at no risk of her hearing this because she doesn't listen, is that was my wife. And, Sherry was calling me she does that like once every couple of months. She said, "Oh yeah, I forgot you're on the radio."
Really in tune with your day, isn't she?
Yes, very much so.
Well, it's pretty common.
Okay, so we talked about the age of a tire. Let's talk a little bit about things that I think that people wonder. Is it is it safe? Is it really a good idea to use Fix-A-Flat?
Well, no. Well, is it a good idea? It depends on the situation. If you're in the middle of nowhere and there's no other option and it works,
sure.
But the problem with Fix-A-Flat is that it coats the inside of the tire, and it makes can kind of weaken the rubber on the inside of the tire. So it weakens from the inside out, and makes it difficult to repair the tire afterwards with any kind of a, patch or plug or anything. It just makes things more difficult. But, I guess it has its place in an emergency if you're, in the middle of the desert and haven't had water for a week and Fix-A-Flat's the only way. Why not?
I could see that happening to me, being in the desert.
It could happen. You don't know.
Yeah,
You're just assuming.
Exactly. So, Tony Joe, let's see here. I had another question for you because I know you want to get through these questions. What about noisy tires?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way to get rid of the noise? I mean, why are some tires noisy and some aren't noisy?
Okay. The reason some tires are noisier than others is because of the amount of steel inside the tire. When the tire is manufactured, it has steel belts, thus they're called steel-belted radials. Now, years ago, before we had steel-belted radials, we had biased ply tires. Biased ply tires did not make the noise that, as you can imagine, think about it, steel belts hitting the road surface, transferring that noise through your car and into your vehicle can come to you as, resonant sound vibrations, noise. It can come to you as vibrations that you feel in the steering wheel and the seat. I mean, usually that's really embellishing it. It would have to be very severe for that to happen. But there are problems that occur from really good tires, believe it or not. Really good, expensive tires have more, they're better built with more radial belts and more knitting of the material, interweaving of the steel belts, and they're built in such a way they can flex on the sidewalls better. In order to accomplish this, you have to manipulate the steel belts in a way that allows for better performance, better traction, so to speak. Well, in doing that, sometimes you can end up with a tire that has noise, road noise related from nothing more than just the tires themselves. And it's annoying. Can you do anything about it? Not really.
So you're not, but you don't do you compromise the ride of the tires?
No.
Because they're noisy. So in other words, you can just turn the radio up a little bit.
That's true. It is completely benign. You can get used to the noise. You can turn the radio up. You can just live with it. But the thing about the better tires is they're better built, and they can, in some cases, not in all cases, because they're trying to engineer the design in a way that it's not going to have excessive road noise. But sometimes it happens. Some cars with some tires on them can create road noise, and there's nothing you can really do about it unless you want to change the tires out, which you just bought brand new tires, so it gets kind of pricey doing that. But it's not really anything that hurts anything. It doesn't hurt your car, and it doesn't hurt the safety benefits far override the annoyance that you're getting from the noise.
Yeah, I think it would be kind of a deal killer if it was a rougher ride. So you're not getting noisy tires and a rougher ride.
Right. If it affected drivability in any way and made it worse in any way, then certainly you wouldn't want those expensive. You want to pay to go backwards in time.
We've talked about in the past that, and we talk off air about things, buying a new car, buying a used car, and you kind of got to be a detective. You got to see if there's really any problems with that pre-owned car. Why it's always important to take the car to a mechanic. So, you can pull up a Carfax, and the Carfax will tell you all kinds of interesting things about the car. And in just discussions that we've had, it's really interesting what putting a set of tires on at 6,000 miles really tells you
Raises a red
potentially
flag. Sure.
about that car.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's why Carfaxes are okay. It's better than not having anything, and it is protection for the consumer, and it is a good thing in a lot of ways, but it can be deceiving.
Yeah,
In a lot of ways, it can be misleading. And when you see or read a Carfax, if you, as say, a single person, and you don't know and understand everything on that Carfax list, it's always good to have somebody else review it with you that knows a little bit more. Because there's so many things that you can see on a Carfax that to me would be a red flag, but to most people would be like, oh, so we had that done. Great. One less thing. Well, no, not necessarily.
You see, that was my reaction. This wasn't tires.
I
but it
remember
was
one
a,
time.
It was a water pump, and I thought, wow, that's a $1,200-$1,300 item, whatever it was.
Cool.
And
One less thing.
The
right?
thing is just repair, but you're like, no, that's a red flag.
Didn't they put it on at like 20-something thousand?
No,
miles?
it was like 13 or 14,000.
Oh, okay.
miles.
Well, see that something threw a red flag at me, and I'm like, why would they?
Well, and
do
they were
that, Bob?
changing the tires frequency too.
Oh, yeah, that's
And
right.
So you,
Right, I remember that.
Your
Yeah.
conclusion was, that they were probably, not being too easy on the car.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, I remember that. So, here's what I suspect. And that's why when you have Carfax information in front of you, if you can't analyze it yourself, it's worth it to get Dad in on it or somebody that knows more about cars, Big Brother, or even a mechanic would do it for you. He can read it and help you. But that's why it's important. If you don't understand it, you're not a mechanic. You're not supposed to be a mechanic. If you don't understand it, find someone that understands it and let them articulate to you exactly what you're reading on that Carfax list. Because Carfaxes can be deceiving. The very best way to approach buying a pre-owned vehicle, especially at today's prices on pre-owned, is to get a real formal inspection by a qualified individual to see if there's any codes hidden in that computer that aren't turning the check engine light on, to see if there's anything that mechanic can find wrong with that car that may not be apparent to you.
Yeah, you got to be careful, especially in the age of that they will take that. You can do it all online, and they'll bring you the car, and you're welcome to turn it back in. But it's such an emotional decision to purchase a car. I think that the idea of bringing a car to you and popping it out in front of your yard is a great idea, because the chances are that person is not going to take that car back.
Right. That's why I don't like that kind of a plan. I guess it's convenient for a lot of people. But here's the thing that really saddens me, Bob, and that's what I have to say. There is corruption in every industry, including the automotive industry. There's corruption and deceit. We have to protect ourselves. And as a mechanic, I'm not quite as susceptible to it as someone that's not as knowledgeable. But if you're not as knowledgeable, you're making a really big purchase, and you're spending a lot of money. So it behooves you to seek out help so that you can be a little more clear on what you're spending all that money on or financing all that money on. Because, hey, deception's out there, Bob. You're never going to, you have to learn to live with it. How do you live with it? You got to find ways to protect yourself as a consumer.
Let me ask you this as we kind of wrap things up. When you take a car that's for sale, and you do a look over and you check it out and everything, and you see maybe through a Carfax or something that tires have been changed quite a bit frequently.
Right.
Where do you start to look for the red flags?
Well, I start at the front end alignment. If I
Right.
see tires being put on the car every so often, I would start with the front end problems. Let's see if that car is out of alignment. Let's see if it's got some worn suspension parts. Let's see if it's got was it in an accident and it wasn't repaired exactly, to specs, and it's not really aligned. So there's a lot of things that, you can drive a car off the road accidentally, go into the ditch and do some suspension damage and not even know it yet. The tires are going to know it because they're so sensitive to how both front and rear alignments are on cars today.
So tell me this: in order to get into a situation where whatever the damage was, you can't align the tires and the wheels, that's a problem. Right? I mean, that's probably it's not fixable.
Well, that would probably be a bent frame,
Yeah,
a bent unibody.
yeah.
Something is
Which
bent.
they're not going to fix, right?
Well, probably not. Depends on the amount of the value of the car.
Yes.
Okay.
This is Bob Brooks. If you got a question for me, please go to the website at prudentmoney.com and send it in, because we are all out of time. Till we do meet again next time, keep the faith and have a great rest of the day.
That's all the time we have for today. Questions or comments for Bob, or to find out more great information like what you've just heard, visit www.prudentmoney.com. Be sure to join Bob Brooks again for the next edition of Prudent Money.